But thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you. I know that I kind of know you, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to listeners and tell us a little about what you're up to?
Okay, yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Becca. So my name is Vickie. I'm a digital nomad. I'm Canadian and I escaped the cold Canadian winters to just cruise the Caribbean seas on my sailboat. So I got into sailing about 4 years ago and then just did everything in my power to make this dream come true. And now I live full time on my sailboat while I work online.
And what do you do online?
I have four different streams of income. One of them is supporting people who want to have a similar lifestyle as me. So I'm part of a coaching collective where there's nine of us, nine certified coaches who help people build and scale their remote-based businesses. So that's one of the ways that I make money. I also do like short form videos on a wellness app. I also have my own networking app for French entrepreneurs. So Francophones, they could be from Quebec, Belgium, France, just anywhere in the world where you speak French, really. And yeah, all those streams of income allow me to sustain my current lifestyle.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And what was kind of your journey to get to this point? Like where did this, like you said started sailing 4 years ago, but where did this love of travel, this need of travel come from, and kind of how did you get from point A to point B? Because like it obviously doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, 100%. I think I believe that people who don't like to travel, that's going to be a really bold, like unpopular opinion. And I've actually never said that nowhere before today. So I don't know why it's coming up. But okay, I believe that people who don't like to travel or people who have unresolved trauma are people who need to do personal development. I feel like if you don't enjoy travel, it's because change makes you anxious. It's because you like staying in your comfort zone. It's because you lack curiosity. So I just feel like anybody who's anybody who can handle change, anybody who likes to get out of their comfort zone, anybody who's curious loves to travel. Um, so I've always been curious and I've always wanted to travel. Like that's always been present for me. And obviously, I love the outdoors. I love water. Like I was very much raised hiking mountains, canoeing, kayaking, all that sort of stuff. And then in 2019, I went on a charter trip to Bahamas. You rent a boat with the skipper. So you pay to like live on a sailboat and kind of experience sailing for a week. And that's when it clicked. I just fell in love with it. Like I remember that day we went spearfishing. So spearfishing is like when you hunt underwater. So you have a spear in your hand with like a rubber band and you pull on it so your spear hits lobsters or fish, right? And cut the fish on the rock. And
Yeah.
then we made fresh sushi with the fish we just caught. And that's when my brain was like, oh my God, you can live like this. Like this is a possibility. This exists. This is out there. Like I could have a life where at night I throw a line, catch my own fish, grill it on my barbecue, and just have that for dinner for free. And I was just fascinated. And that's when this like crazy journey of, okay, I need to learn everything I can about sailing. I need to meet people who sail. I need to go in sailing Facebook group. I need to start watching sailing YouTube videos. Like I went full on obsessed. And I think that's how people need to be for their dreams and their goals, is that if you ever wanted to like become your reality, you got to immerse yourself in it. And yeah, and then I found my dream boat on Facebook Marketplace. Messaged the sellers, the people who were selling, did a virtual like Zoom visit, asked someone in the Caribbean to go and visit the boat to make sure it was good and safe, and then booked a one-way flight to Trinidad and Tobago and met my new home.
Wow. And so in the process of all of this, right? So you're going full in on learning how to sail. How are you making an income at this point? Like, do you have everything that you're doing now and you're still balancing that with like this need to learn to sail, or were you doing something a little different?
Yeah, very, very different. So at the time, I used to coach high level sports team. So I was coaching artistic swimming. I used to kind of the pattern with water, swimming,
Yeah, yeah, nautical
holding.
vibes.
Yeah, exactly. I was always by a pool deck, spend my whole winters by a pool deck. Um, so yeah, coaching high level sports team. Like I used to coach teams all the way to international competition, which is I think sports is the foundation of my mindset when it comes to like goal setting, visualization, discipline, habit building, right? These are all things that you have to do when you do high level sports. And I used to help my athletes, yes, physically, but at a very high level, you're a team of coaches helping the athletes. It's never just you, right? There's going to be a physiotherapist, a strength and conditioning specialist, a nutritionist, a massage therapist, a sports psychologist, a choreographer, because in artistic swimming, you get a choreographer. So you're a whole team of expert gravitating around the athletes and helping them get the best results. And I think that's why I love the business model that I'm in right now, because I see entrepreneurs very much like athletes. And I love that I can collaborate with other experts because when we come all together, we're able to best support them, right? So that's what I was doing full time. And then when the pandemic hit, everyone went back home and I went a little bit crazy because I was working 80 hours a week and I started working 0 hours a week. So I volunteered in Canada. We were really struggling when it comes to our health services. So I volunteered to go in the long-term care facilities. So I worked for 5 months as a caregiver. So I did just about everything, changing diapers, brushing people's teeth, holding their hand as they passed,
Mhm.
um, which really kind of gave me even more that urgency of, okay, I need to make my dream possible. And, during the night shift, I would like watch my sailing videos and just kind of focus on that vision. And that's when my partner said, why don't we start making an income online? And this whole sailing dream of yours doesn't have to be just a 1 year trip, it could be a lifestyle. Um, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then started to build an income online. I tried a couple of things before really finding my sweet spot. And that's when I met the Zennial Traveler, and they were like, yeah, we're looking for a mindset coach on our team. So I showed them all the training I had, all the experiences I had coaching high level sports team. And I got that job, and that was my first like stable stream of income online.
Okay, so did you spend, well, first of all, that's just incredible. Again, like I I fangirl you so much. I'm just like, this is incredible. I'm wondering too, like during this dream and stuff, you're saying that you spent a lot of time thinking about it and researching it and putting yourself into that dream to make sure that like it was going to happen. So, for people that, like you said, people that are afraid, they're afraid to leave their comfort zone, they are afraid to travel. How would you recommend you start? Like you have this just big dream of like, I want to do this, but it seems so far away. And you're just like, oh, that couldn't be me. But I saw a post on your Instagram and it was like, I want them to be like, if she can do it, I can do it. And I was like, but that's true though. Like if some human can do it, why not you? And it's like, how do you get started on that path of trying to believe that what you see in your visions can be a reality?
I think you already said the answer. Like you're spot on. The first thing to do if you have a crazy big dream that scares you, whether it's to have a goat farm, to climb Mount Everest, to start your own podcast, find someone who's done it. Find
Mhm.
someone who's done it, send a DM to that person, send an email, and just be like, "Hey, you inspire me so much. Where should I start? What's my first step? I want to do what you did." And meeting this person not only will give you direction as to what your first steps should be, your first baby steps, but
Mhm.
also that's what's going to reinforce the belief that it's possible for you. Because the more people you meet that have done it, the more it's going to feel possible, feel attainable, right? And the other thing is that you need to make a promise to yourself. Like you need to commit to yourself. Best example I always give for this is I don't know if any of your listeners have kids, but I'm sure people can like imagine themselves having kids. Um, if your kid after 4 weeks doesn't walk yet, Or are you just gonna say, oh, too bad, we'll push this one in a wheelchair? Of course not. Like, you're gonna do freaking everything in your power to make that child walk. You're gonna like hold his hand. You're gonna find a walking therapist. You're gonna show him other kids that are walking. Like, you're gonna do everything you can until this kid walks. And it's the same attitude you need to have towards your dream. Like, we are so good at giving up on ourselves. And I feel like humans lack so much self-trust because we don't view our relationship with ourselves as the same as we see our relationship with our friends, right? I feel like our desire to be loved by others often overpowers our desire to be loved by ourselves. Um, so yeah, find someone who's done it. I'm kind of getting all over the place now, but find someone who's done it. Build your sense of, commit to yourself, commit to your dream, build yourself a self-trust by doing the smallest action. Like, if you say you're gonna give up, you're gonna get up at 7 a.m. tomorrow, get up at 7 a.m. tomorrow. It's those little things that build your trust in yourself that then allow you to do bigger things. And then just try to look for, okay, what is the smallest thing I can do today to get me closer to my dream? If my dream is to have a goat farm, well, the smallest thing I could do today is probably find a book about goats because I know absolutely nothing about goats. Find a book and read it. Just like, always ask yourself this question: what's the smallest thing I can do today to get closer to my goal? And then those small actions become bigger actions, and the little snowball becomes a big ball, and then it becomes a full snowman.
But did you find that your progress was kind of linear in this process, or did you find that you had like, oh, I'm like making progress, and then oh, there's that, and then I'm, like a little setback here and there. Did you find that it was overall linear, or was it kind of a bumpy road?
Oh, I think very much a bumpy road, right? There were months where I was enrolled in, let's say, electricity for boats, right? It was a course, 3 hours a week for 11 weeks, and you have exercises and homework, and you need to study, and there's an exam at the end. Like, in these months, I felt like I was making crazy progress. And then the course ends, and you're kind of like back to, oh shoot, what's next? What's the next step? And then you're back into this like in limbo thing where your life just kind of continues and your dream is maybe more on the back burner. So no, it's definitely bumpy, but it's good to kind of stop by every month or every 3 months or every 6 months and be like, okay, what progress have I done in the last 6 months, and what kind of progress do I want to do in the next 6 months?
Mhm.
Which again is very kind of connected to my sports mindset, right? KPIs. Okay, what progress have my athletes made? Which areas do I need to, is it more flexibility? Is it more strength? Is it more power, speed? Like, what abilities do I need to work on in the next quarter? Just remember that progress is progress. Like, big progress doesn't have more value than small progress, right? What you want is just to be compassionate with yourself, and just like every step forward that you're making is a step forward. If this week you only made one step and next week it's 10 steps, that's absolutely perfect.
Mhm. So these lull phases though that you're kind of talking about of like, oh, like I did this course and then I did this and then you're like kind of like, what do I do now? How did you kind of trust in the fact that like the next thing that you needed to do would come along? Because I think those are the periods that I struggle with the most, right? I think it's everyone. You're so on it and you're so consistent and you're like, this, I can feel it, it's so close. And then you get to a period of like, what the heck am I even doing? Where am I supposed to go? What is my next step? And I find it very hard sometimes to locate what that next thing is. So how did you kind of navigate that? And like, did you find that person that was out there living on their sailboat and you were like, you inspire me so much, so I'm gonna just kind of like latch myself onto you? Is that kind of what you did as well?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I found, and at the time when I decided I was going to move on a sailboat, I did not have a partner, so I was looking specifically for solo female sailors.
Okay.
And I found several, right now, just now on Netflix, there's True Spirit, which is Jessica Watson, which is an Australian. She did circumnavigation. She went around the world unassisted at 16 years old. She has an incredible story. If you don't follow her on Instagram and all that, like I definitely recommend people do so. I met Sophie is in her 40s now. When I met her, she was in Puerto Rico on her boat. Two hurricanes passed on her boat, and she had cancer. She had to send her kids. She has kids, so she sent back with family in Quebec while she got treated for her cancer, and then moved back on her boat in Puerto Rico alone, sailed and waited to be healthy before her kids could come back. I read the book of Liz Clark, which is a solo female sailor who wanted to look for the best surfing spots, and she wrote the super inspiring book. Follow her on Instagram as well. And like, I there's other people that are not in sailing that inspired me as well, like Valentine Thomas, who quit the big corporate lawyer world to become a professional spearfisher. And now she makes her income selling the fish that she catches and cookbooks of how to like cook a fish with just about nothing on a beach. Um, so yeah, definitely that's one thing I did. Now, when you talk about like waves of doubt, I feel like and that's a big thing in personal development, people think that you always need to be in high vibrations. People think that you're supposed to always be positive. People think that you're always supposed to have clarity and know what's coming up. But I think the one of the biggest lessons that I learned living on the boat is actually that everything is temporary. That really big dark cloud and me wondering how my boat is going to get through the next hour is temporary. The engine that is broken is temporary. The current that is pushing us at 3 knots in the wrong direction is temporary. And so are your waves of doubt and fear and uncertainty. And to be honest, most of the time, if I stopped resisting those waves and I just welcomed them, being like, okay, this week is going to be full of doubt and uncertainty. And it happens to me even now on the boat sometimes with entrepreneurship. There are ways that I'm like, I have no idea what's coming up for me in business. I have this problem and I can't see the solution yet. Usually, if I just sit in my bed, burn my self-care candle, watch the Hunger Games, 2 days later, everything is fine. So when I stopped like blaming myself for having waves of uncertainty, when I stopped judging myself for having waves of uncertainty, when I stopped trying to create a rhythm that is different to my own personal rhythm,
Mhm.
suddenly it stopped being so difficult.
Yeah, I think that's something I've definitely started to learn a little bit more is that like to appreciate the bad or like not even the bad, just appreciate the low because you can't appreciate the really good and the really high if you don't acknowledge the fact that like you know what it's like to feel super low because the reason you know how to feel good is because you know what it's like to feel low and it's hilarious that you mentioned Hunger Games. Is that not everyone's go-to I'm feeling down movie because one of my best friends and she was sick like the other week and she was like, I'm just gonna watch all the Hunger Games and drink tea. And I was like, but it is a movie that I put on repeat all of the time.
It's always good. Yeah, I did it a couple of weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I had a day where I just didn't feel like working and I just sat and I watched three of the series in one day.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Have you read the books?
Yes, yes. Good books. Good. I like dystopian stories. I think it just takes me out of my reality a little bit and
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's good.
How long have you been traveling now? So you've been traveling for like a year, but you've traveled before this as well. So you've been on your sailboat for 9 months.
Yeah, exactly. When we left, so the thing is that we purchased the boat April 1st, 2022.
Okay.
Um, but we knew that it was hurricane season from like end of May. So we did not want to move on our boat and then repair it and then just kind of hang out in a boatyard for 3 months. Didn't feel really appealing to us. So we sold all of our belongings, sold our car, said goodbye to our apartment, to our families, and then we left for South Korea. And then we spent some time in South Korea and then some time in Europe. And then we flew back to Canada, did a little bit of a road trip, did like the East Coast, went down to the States, Boston, and then we flew from Montreal to Trinidad in September 1st.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So how did it feel selling all your belongings? I forgot about this piece. Yeah. How was that?
You're talking about waves and bumpy road. That was definitely one of them. Like some days it felt so good, so liberating, so cleansing. Definitely like detaching from objects feels really good, but also, yeah, I think it felt pretty good most of the process. And then the day that we left the apartment and that all of our belongings were in our car, I remember I have a video of this. We sat in a coffee shop and we had our first like nomad meal. But even though my brain rationally, like my rational was super excited and happy, my body freaked out. Like after 2 hours in the cafe, I told my partner, like, I need to go back to the car because it's like I feel like a homeless person, like a homeless person that has one bag with all of your belongings, and suddenly this bag becomes so freaking precious.
Mhm.
And we walked back to the car and I just puked. I threw up in the parking lot. My body was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are all of your belongings gone? Why do you have no place to sleep in tonight? What is going on? And it's just like my body was shaking. And mentally, I was able to say, like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. But my body was dysregulated. So it took me like a good week to just kind of, yeah, feel safe, create a sense of safety within my body and be like, hey, we're gonna be fine. I got this. Trust me, it's gonna be okay. Um, and then I mean, from like the moment we left for South Korea to the moment we got on the boat, we never spent more than 3 nights in the same spot. So when we arrived in our boat on September 1st, we were exhausted because it was over 100 days of not sleeping in the same bed for more than 3 nights. Yeah, we needed a lot of like routines, grounding techniques, breathing exercises, not even for our rational, but just for the unconscious mind to be like, hey, I know this looks crazy, but it's worth it.
Mhm. So that's kind of how you have kept your groundedness during all of this, because that's something that I'm always very curious about, because I know when I travel for very long periods of time, I come to a point where I'm just like, I feel like I'm floating, and I feel like I don't know how to help myself feel like I belong somewhere, and I'm like, it's an interesting thing when you can think and be like, I could go anywhere in the world right now. I can do anything that I want, but like I like what do I do? I don't know what to do. There's this piece of you that wants that, like, I want a home and I want somewhere to go home to. But when you don't have that, it feels very hard sometimes to be like, okay, yeah, like this is my dream and this is what I wanted. But now I feel like I'm floating. So but you have a boat now, so that's kind of different. That is your home. But before that, were you
Yeah.
like, I need a place to call home? Did you ever feel like that?
Oh, yeah, 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 definitely. I never felt like I needed a home, because home as a concept, right, is very different than a house. So you have to build kind of like home within you, have very strong like roots. And what I would say is like one thing that really helped me was to build safety nets around that, right? You anticipate that, that that feeling of floating and detachment and uncertainty is going to arrive. So you need to have safety nets that you put in place before. And this can take many shapes and form. Like one thing we did before leaving on the boat was when we had a goodbye party, we brought a notebook that said like love notes to feel close while we're far.
Mm,
And every single one of our friends and family members left us a note. And whenever I feel disconnected, I open that notebook and I read it and I remember that I'm loved and supported and guided.
mhm,
So that's one of the safety nets we did. My partner and I, we did couples therapy, not because our couple wasn't going well. We did it preventively because we knew that there would be times where our nervous system would be such on high alert and we needed to be a better team and better communicators. Um, I did a lot of journaling, and I kind of created routines that no matter where I am in the world, I can always go back to those routines. So all of those little safety things that you can think of that you can put in place before departure, I think really, really, really helps.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, like Brené Brown says this, to belong somewhere, you first need to belong to yourself. So I worked on my relationship with myself first and foremost, and I think that's what makes this possible. Sustainable is the right word.
And do you think that was like, because when did you and your partner get together?
A little bit over 3 years ago.
Okay, so do you think a lot of that self-development was prior to getting together, or do you think it's kind of just been a process as well along with having someone in your life? Because it is a very different thing. You know, my mom always jokes with me. She's like, I want you to find a boyfriend so that way you have someone to travel with. And I know that's just my mom being like, oh, my baby won't be by herself. But it is a
Mm.
very different thing traveling by yourself than it is with anyone else. And like I've always just pretty much solo traveled. I've never had that other person. So I am curious like how that is different and how do you maintain that strong relationship with yourself while also trying to maintain this relationship with another person.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it definitely facilitates, well, it facilitates travel in certain aspects, and then it complicates it because
Yeah.
you're never 100% allowed to do exactly what it is that you want to do, um, just in terms of logistics. But at the same time, whenever you feel lonely or whenever you need reassurance or whenever you just need someone else, Ben is really well traveled. So I think he also really helped me through this process because he's gone through it several times. And yeah, another thing that in terms of like safety net that I did was that once a week I had an alarm on my phone to connect with a friend or a relative.
Mm.
Like every Friday, I have an hour where I just send voice memos to my grandma, my dad, my mom, ask them how they're doing so that I maintain that connection. And it's the kind of super easy thing that if it's not in your routine, you just won't do it because you're traveling and you're going through all these amazing things. But it's really good to like maintain connections, even if with just old friends. Just have one moment every week where you commit to connecting with maintain not connecting but maintaining that bond that you have with people that you love, so that really 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 helps, I would say. Yeah.
Mhm. And I'm curious if your parents, your family, your friends, were they supportive of this whole moving on a boat? And I know that I did read too that one of the things that really helped you, you know, was being okay with disappointing people. And I'm wondering about just that in general because that is such a hard thing to accept and acknowledge and just it allows you to step into yourself a lot more, but it's very difficult to deal with. So I'm wondering, have you dealt with a lot of disappointment from people?
Yeah. um well, recently, two weeks ago, my grandmother had a stroke,
Mm,
and I see myself very much as a pillar in my family. I'm the oldest like grandchild, so the other, grandchildren kind of look up to me in the family. And my dad remarried, so my sister's 10 years younger, so I'm very much like a parent figure or a mentor figure for my little sister as well, and my little brother. So it was really tough to be away, and I knew when I left that this kind of thing could happen and that it was part of the deal. But I do no one said that they were disappointed that I was away, but I felt very far from my family and very powerless in the last 2 weeks. And when she woke up from the stroke, she couldn't speak.
mm,
It affected her frontal lobe and it affected her language area. So she couldn't make any sounds. She couldn't say any of her names. You could see that she recognizes us because I FaceTime her from my boat and she started crying and she was like sending me kisses, but she couldn't she couldn't communicate, right, her needs or anything. Um, so yeah, so my family's been going every single day, like every single family member, we're all in a group chat and everybody's posting videos on her progress. And I sent her videos of like me singing in her first language with subtitles, just kind of hoping to do my part. And then, my sister called me because she needed someone to talk to. My cousin called me because she needed someone to talk to. And it's tough. I'm not gonna lie, like it's tough, and I need to be responsibilize myself of my choice. Like no one forced me to move on a sailboat at the other end of the world. Um, it was my choice. So I'm okay with it, and I'm learning to be okay with being away, and I'm learning to contribute in the way that I can, and I'm learning to be sad away from the people that I love.
Mhm.
So I just had to pause my work day and think how can I honor myself today? So I went and I got myself soup, and loves to eat, which is chips dipped in whipped Philadelphia. So I was in Martinique, so I got like some whipped cream cheese and another brand of chips, but I just had that with soup, and I cried, and I honored my sadness, and I made room for my sadness. And yesterday my dad sent me a video of her saying my name for the first time.
Oh.
Um, yeah. So, it's tough, but it's life. And like you said earlier, like sadness is a part of life as much as happiness is. And why have a happy life when you can have a whole life?
Yeah. Wow, it is, I think that is, like, the scariest thought, though, when you do end up doing something like that, is because the last time I came home from Europe, my mindset was like, "My brother's probably gonna get married soon, and maybe they're gonna have a kid soon," and I was like, "Do I" my parents were getting older, like, "Do I want to be that far away when and if something happens?" But then, you come home and I'm like, "But wait, I am so much more of a person when I'm doing the things that I love," and so I'm like, "Do I sacrifice half of my life just to, be there for the people that I love, or do I live fully into what I want and what I desire and just have to live with those consequences, but also do the best that I can, like you're saying, to support those people when those things happen, because that's gonna happen whether I'm in a state away or a country away. The difference is if I have to fly home, maybe I can get there quicker, which sometimes does make a difference, but those things are kind of inevitable if you're a human. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can live in fear that something's gonna happen, and then like I think one thing that really shaped me as a human was my parents split up, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have like divorced or separated parents. That's not where I'm going. My parents split up when I was 5, and when I was in my early 20s, my mom said, I did it for you. And it made me so freaking angry when I heard her say this. I was like, do not, like, this is not my responsibility. I was 5 years old. And like, she was like, no, 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 you don't understand. Let me explain. And she said, I was looking at you. I was unhappy with your dad. My dad is a wonderful human. My parents get along. Like, there's no like violent story or anything in this. But my mom was unhappy because she didn't like the version of herself that she was with my dad. She admired him so much that she kind of lost herself through the relationship, and it was not a relationship that made her flourish or anything. And she said, I was kind of staying with him because I thought, oh, it's important for a kid to have a stable family, to have two parents. And going back to I did it for you, she said, I was looking at you play, and I thought, what kind of example am I as a mom to stay in a relationship that doesn't fulfill me for
Mhm.
someone else, for my kid? And she said, the best example I could give for you was to make this tough choice that I know would have a big impact on your life growing up with separated parents, but it would teach you that your happiness always needs to come first.
Yeah.
So she loved that relationship for herself, but also to show me an example of what it looks like to prioritize yourself and to prioritize your happiness. And now she's in a new relationship and she's super happy. My dad's in a new relationship, he's super happy. And I learned that tough lesson that if I don't prioritize my happiness, no one else is going to prioritize it for me. No one else is going to put me first. So I need to put me first, even if sometimes it's tough, it means disappointing other people.
Yeah. I think I'm still at that point of learning how to deal with the hurt that, that comes with it, or the because you never want to intentionally hurt someone else, but I think just it's a pretty beautiful thing to like hear that from someone that has a few more years of life on me, that it is possible to just like to do it in a way that fulfills you, but also just realizing that like it's not out of a place of I'm trying to hurt this person. It's just my life has like no one is going to put me first, and I have to. So I think that's quite a beautiful lesson, and good for your mom, honestly. I mean, you that's not a story you hear every day. Like in my mind, when you said that, when you were like, I did this for you, my mind went to like she was like angry at you or something because like she's like, I did this for you and you didn't appreciate it, or something like
Yeah.
that, because I think that's what you hear more often than not. So
Yeah. Oh no, she inspires me so much in her way to like understand relationships and happiness. And even like a couple years ago we were sitting on her front porch. I love saying that story so much. So if you're listening to this, like record this in that part of your brain. Um we were sitting on her front porch or something, having a glass of wine, and she goes, Vickie, my partner, and like I said, she's in a super happy relationship. She's been with this guy for over 10 years now. And she says, my boyfriend, he's not the most handsome. He's not the richest. He's not like the smartest man in the world. He's a little bit grumpy sometimes. But my version of myself with him, oh, that's my favorite.
mm,
And it made me realize how different I approach relationships now. Because when I meet new friends, I don't think like, oh my God, this person is awesome, or this person has a lot of money, or this person can teach me so much. No, how does this person make me feel about myself? Do I love myself when I hang out with this person, or do I leave this play date and hate myself? And that's the kind of people I want to surround myself with. That's the kind of relationship I want my partner. I want someone who makes me fall in love with myself. I want to do hobbies and activities that make me fall in love with myself. I want to do work that makes me fall in love with myself. Do I love myself when I complain about the weather? No, I don't love myself when I complain. Do I love myself when I'm with a friend who drags me into unhealthy habits like bitching other people or talking behind other people's back? No, I don't love myself when I hang out with this person. So who around you make you feel loved by yourself?
that is a very good question. It's interesting that you say that, because that's something I was actually talking to my mom about yesterday. Just because I was talking to her about some difficult relationships in my life, and I was very much like, you don't understand. I don't like who I am when I'm there, and so I don't want to be there. And that hasn't, I guess, necessarily clicked for her, but hopefully one day it will. But I just think that that's just quite a different perspective to think of. And I had a guest on like last week, and she was saying that the love that we feel for other people is in us. They just unlocked the key to like the love that was in us, but they like released it, and everyone releases like a different type of love. And I thought that was quite beautiful as well, because it's like you have everything that you need inside yourself, but other people bring it out for you. And it's like, do you want those people to bring out something beautiful in you, or do you want them to bring out the part of you that you don't want to come out? So
Oh my God, I love that. That's so good. That's such a beautiful image because, and it works for every emotion, right? Your anger is inside of you, your sadness is inside of you. And I love those approaches to life that are very connected to self-responsibility, when you are just honor your potential, honor your sadness, honor your happiness, honor your love. It's just right in there.
yeah, well, and I think I was listening to a podcast the other day or something, and they were talking about how, you're living this life, right? You're living your dream. And it kind of just goes back to the idea of you saying that everyone expects you to be super positive all the time. And you're saying, like, just because I'm living my dream and I fulfilled my passions, it like doesn't mean that I don't get to feel sad and I don't get to feel emotions and to get to feel everything that comes with life, because it's like you take yourself with you wherever you go, and that's not going to change.
Yeah.
I think that was something that it was hard for me to learn as well, because I used to feel a lot of shame and like embarrassment or just anger with myself when I was in another country doing the thing that I had dreamed of doing. And then I was like, why am I so angry right now? Why am I so sad right now? And it's those things that really make you realize, like I I exist. I'm human. And I'm also allowed to feel these things, whether or not you want to hear it. This is how I feel. So,
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Just like amen. I'm so triggered by online coaches who are like, I'm gonna teach you to control your emotions. I'm like, girl, emotions are physiological movements. They're literally like, when you think about it, like, what is an emotion? It's stuff moving inside of your body. It's your organs like contracting, expanding. It's your cardiac like rhythm, your heartbeat getting faster. It's you starting to sweat. That's not something you can control. That's something you can welcome. Like, I do believe that we have power over our thoughts, like choosing what to think about, and we have power over our behaviors. We have power over our habits. But controlling your emotions, like, I'm sorry. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm being judgy and like it is possible, but I feel like for me it's been all about welcoming. And when I can welcome, I can process, and
mhm.
then I can quickly move to another state, another feeling. But I don't feel like repressing or forcing yourself to be always positive is the key or the solution to anything.
No, I feel like the word control makes me feel like that would make me angrier and more frustrated, because like what you're saying, welcoming seems very kind and gentle, but like controlling makes me feel like I'm not okay because I feel sad. And have you ever seen the movie Inside Out?
Yes, it's so good.
It's so good. Like I literally, that is also one of my go-to movies when I'm like feeling down, because it's just such a good reminder that it just all exists. And when I think of like being sad or when I think of being angry, I like to think of the little characters, and it just like immediately puts me in a good mood. I'm okay being sad because sadness is so funny. Like in the movie, she's hilarious. So, anyways.
Yes. Well, that's what we need more of, because Inside Out to me is a perfect example of emotional literacy. You know, people talk a lot about emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
but before emotional intelligence, there's emotional awareness. Like, are you even able to like recognize in your body, like, oh, I'm feeling doubt today? And then to be able to say it is doubt and not shame or hate or anger is emotional literacy. Like, are you able to name your emotions? Are you able to describe the whole spectrum with like precision? And just labeling how you feel, that's proven like scientifically in neuroscience, to be able to label how you feel um, reduces like the physical symptoms of your emotion. If it's like, let's say like they ask like people that are they like track the brain frequencies of people that are sad, and having them say, oh yeah, I am sad, kind of like cooled down the emotion. But having someone say, oh yeah, I'm feeling super happy or ecstatic, actually like did the opposite effect. Like, it enhanced their experience within their body. So I thought that was absolutely fascinating. So yeah, more emotional literacy, more emotional awareness, so that we can be more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, emotional vocabulary is very important. Being able to communication is honestly communication with yourself, communication with the world, people is so important. And I mean, when you said that too, it's like as a female as well, I'm sure you've experienced the issues of like self-love and body image and all of that stuff. And that is also so linked to just what you tell yourself on a daily basis. Like if you wake up every day and you tell yourself that you're ugly, you're going to feel ugly. But if you wake up every day and you tell yourself that you are beautiful, you will literally start to feel like the most beautiful person in the world. And like all it takes is just like that little click in your brain to be like, okay, I'm telling myself this and it's going to happen. So
100%.
yeah. But anyways, I do want to be respectful of your time. I could talk to you forever, but I do want to ask you one last question. Well, a few actually, maybe. I want you to tell
Oh, good.
people where they can find you and all that good stuff, but I also want to know funnest place you've ever visited and like really fun travel story off the top of your head.
Yeah. Okay. The funnest travel story that comes to my mind right now is when we were in Grenada and we had a really rough couple of days. We had no more engine. No more engine means no more way to move the boat and no more fresh water. And because we had no more engine, there was no way to go fill the boat with fresh water. Because we couldn't run the engine and it was kind of cloudy and rainy for 3 days, our solar panel were not enough to power the electricity on the boat. So we had no more electricity.
Mhm.
No more electricity means no more fridge, no more way to charge our electronics. And then our dinghy, our Zodiac, like the way to get to land, we lost the floor. So we had no more ways to get to land. We had no more fresh water. We had no more electricity, no more fridge. And then we ran out of data. So we had no more phones or internet. And then there is a big rust patch on the bottom of the boat. So I had to do some like underwater epoxy and I accidentally swallowed some of it. And that's not really good for you. Like I got like a super intense migraine. I got really, really, really sick. So I'm in bed just kind of like surviving that week, right? And my partner's like, "Oh, I'm going to try to do something helpful. I'm going to wash the compost toilet because we have a compost toilet on board." And so he goes out at sea at night. Obviously, you don't wash your toilet in the middle of the day with everybody watching. So it's like 7 or 8 p.m. He's washing the toilet and he drops it by accident.
Like
So
into
we
the
lost, yeah, like into the water, like into the sea. So we lost our toilet. And so he wakes me up and he's like, "Vickie, I'm so, so sorry. I just lost our compost toilet." And I was like, "Okay, what do you mean you lost it?" He's like I dropped it and it's gone. So we had to poop in buckets for about 3 days. And I think that was like one of the lowest points of my life. Um, yeah, it really like this kind of moments really help you create gratitude for really simple things, like being able to poop in a toilet. So after 3 days, we made friends who had scuba equipment on their boats. So we borrowed their scuba gear and we found our toilet at the bottom of the sea. We brought it back onto the boat and we reinstalled it. And now we have a toilet again.
That is so funny. Like awful, but so funny. That must have been a bonding experience. Um, yeah, it's definitely things like that. Like, wow.
When when shit goes down now, well, not literal shit.
Yeah.
When like terrible things happen, my partner and I are always like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be such a good story. Just wait for it. It's gonna get like never ask the universe, is it gonna get worse? Because the universe is gonna be like, hold my beer. Just watch me. So never ask like, does it get worse? Because I can tell you it can.
It
I don't know
can.
what your situation is, but it can get worse. I trust me on this one.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, now whenever something breaks on the boat, we're just like, oh my God, a good story is coming up. Just wait for it. A good story is coming up. So
That's
yeah,
a
that
good
was one of
way
them.
to that's a good way to think about it because then you're like, okay, this sucks right now, but in 2 days, this will be hilarious. Like when we find our toilet, this is gonna be the funniest thing I've ever told anyone.
Exactly. 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 Every time someone leaves the boat, like a friend or boat always says like make good choices. And if you don't, make sure to take photos.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That just made my day. All right. Okay, well, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time and talking to you. So where can everyone find you? Because I think everyone just needs to go follow this ball of sunshine to achieve all of their goals, because seriously, I've known you for a week and I'm like, this woman, she's gonna like
And
come rule the world one day.
well, I mean, so will you. I saw your post on the Facebook group. I was like, I remember messaging. I was like, first of all, we need to be friends.
Yeah, you
And
said
then I'd
that.
love to be I'd love to be a guest on your podcast, but first,
Mhm.
priorities, everybody. But yeah, connect with me on Instagram. I live on this platform. My handle is just my name, which I'm sure you can find in the show notes or
Yeah,
wherever. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn and kind of TikTok, but I haven't figured the whole TikTok thing yet. So I would say Instagram is the go-to.